It started with a chuckle. Not from me. Not even from the man telling the joke. It came from her, Hannah, my wife. The woman I used to think had my back in a world full of knives. Her laugh was soft, but in it was a twist. A little curl of disdain aimed at me. Her mother had just leaned across the table, half a glass of Chardonnay in her hand, and said it loud enough for everyone to hear. Real men provide. You don't. No one stopped her. No one gasped. No one defended me. Not even Hannah. She just laughed. That sound didn't leave my head for hours. We were at the dining table in their overpriced suburban home, the same home I helped them keep out of foreclosure 2 years ago. Her dad, silent as always, focused on the steak. Her brother grinned, amused. Her mom, ever the queen in her kingdom of glass and gossip, sipped her wine like she'd earned the right to judge. And Hannah? She just smiled. I didn't flinch, didn't raise my voice. I took a breath, looked around that table, and said nothing. But I was already moving, not physically, but mentally. Calculating, tracking, sorting. This wasn't the first time. Her mother had always made little comments. Hannah used to roll her eyes at them, used to call them old school. Lately, she just absorbed them, aligned with them. Somewhere between the new house, the Instagram sponsorships, and the faux boho rebrand, Hannah started believing her own press. And she forgot who built it. They all did. She didn't know I'd kept every receipt, every wire transfer, every bill I'd covered without asking for credit. I wasn't sentimental. I was surgical. Years ago, I started tracking it all, not out of suspicion, but necessity. Hannah's business never made money. Her wellness studio was a revolving door of staff, high-end candles, and fake numbers on pitch decks. I never said anything. I just paid, quietly, until that laugh. That night, we drove home in silence. She scrolled through her phone, legs crossed, face lit by the screen's glow. When we pulled into the driveway, she didn't say goodnight. She just went inside. I sat in the car, engine off, door closed, eyes forward. And I started planning. 3 days later, I had everything I needed. I didn't confront her. I just asked her to host her family that Saturday at our place. Said I wanted to show appreciation. She smiled, thinking I was over it, that I'd swallowed it like all the other times. She kissed my cheek and said, "That's sweet of you." It wasn't. Saturday came fast. I had everything prepared, drinks, food, in one black folder, unmarked, sitting quietly in my study. It had over 40 pages, itemized payments, bank statements, screenshots, and a breakdown of every dime I put into her business, her family, her future. All verified, all clean. I printed it on linen paper. They arrived at 5 p.m. Wine flowed. Laughter bounced off the walls. Hannah was radiant, back in control. Her mom wore that smug look again, sizing up my silence like it was weakness. "Smells great in here," she said. "Glad to see you're trying." Trying. Right. We sat down to eat. The conversation started light. New interior design trends, Hannah's brand collaborations, her brother's new truck. Then it turned, as I knew it would. "So," her mom said, dabbing her lips with a napkin, "how's work, Ryan? Or, are we still calling that a job?" The table chuckled, soft but pointed. That was my cue. I stood up. Not in anger. Not rushed. Just steady. I left the table, went to the study, and came back with the folder. Placed it gently on the table beside Hannah's plate. "What's this?" she asked. "Since there's confusion," I said. "I figured we could clear it up." I opened the folder. The top page was a spreadsheet. Color-coded. Dated. The header read, "Contributions by Ryan Whitaker to the Price family, 2017 to 2024. Her mom's smile twitched. "These are receipts," I said, flipping pages slowly, "of every time I didn't provide. Starting with the $14,250 I paid to keep this house from going into auction, March 3rd, 2020. Next is the capital I injected into Hannah's studio, $62,000 total, over 18 months. There's also your medical bill, Elaine. The one insurance didn't cover, $11,872. No one spoke. I continued. "Here's the lease agreement for Daniel's first car, co-signed by me. Here's the Venmo log for grocery deliveries during the pandemic, every Sunday, 6 months straight." Hannah looked like she'd stopped breathing. I flipped one more page. "And this," I tapped the sheet, "is the running total of everything I've spent directly or indirectly for this family, $186,393. 47. Her mother's face drained. I don't say this for applause, I said, voice calm. I say it because the next time you say something about real men providing, you might want to check your math. Hannah reached for the folder. I slid it away. Not yet. I pulled out the last page, a notarized statement of separation. Not a full divorce. Not yet. But it set the clock ticking. I placed it between us like a chess move. You laughed, I said, when your mom humiliated me. So I started thinking, maybe this isn't a partnership. Maybe I was just the wallet. Ryan, her voice cracked. I stood. There's more, I said. But I think this is a good place to pause. And then I walked out of the room, just like I'd walked into her life years ago. Quiet. Undeniable. And this time, holding all the proof. I didn't slam the door. I didn't need to. The silence I left behind said everything. From the hallway, I heard the shuffle of chairs. A glass clinked too hard against a plate. Then, muffled voices. Hannah whispering my name, her mother demanding answers, her brother saying something about overreacting. I poured myself a drink in the kitchen, neat bourbon, no ice, and waited. 10 minutes passed before Hannah found me. She walked in holding the folder, her hands shaking like it was radioactive. What the hell is this? She said, her voice a mix of fear and rage. You know what it is, I said. You just didn't think I kept track. She opened her mouth, closed it, tried again. You blindsided me in front of my family. No, I cut in. Your mother tried to humiliate me. Again. You just let her. Again. You could have talked to me in private. You laughed. She didn't have a response to that. Her eyes darted around the room like it had answers. This, she said, waving the folder, feels manipulative. I almost laughed. You think this is manipulation? No. This is documentation. This is what it looks like when the provider you dismissed decides he's not footing the bill for your delusion anymore. A beat of silence. Then, are you really going to do this? Walk away? I nodded. Yes. And here's why. Your family doesn't just disrespect me. They use me. You use me. And I let it happen because I thought love meant sacrifice. But it turns out, love without respect is just indentured service. Her eyes welled up. You don't mean that. I stepped closer, low and calm. I meant it the day I paid your dad's hospital bill and watched him shake your brother's hand for the help. I meant it the day I sat through your mom's fourth insult over dinner and you changed the subject instead of defending me. I meant it every time you called me your rock in public and then joked about how you're carrying the emotional weight. The tears fell, but I didn't move. Ryan, she said, voice small now, please don't do this here. They're still in the living room. I know, I said. That's why I'm not finished. I walked past her and back into the dining room. Every eye turned to me. Hannah trailed behind like a shadow. Her mother was the first to speak. If you think waving receipts around makes you a man, then you've proven my point. I didn't answer her directly. I just looked at her husband. Tell me, Harold, when your house was 6 weeks from foreclosure, who bailed you out? He looked down at his lap. I looked at Hannah's brother. When you defaulted on your lease and needed a co-signer, who stepped in? You ever thank me for that? He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Then I looked at her mother. You want to talk about what real men do? They show up. Quietly. Consistently. Even when they're disrespected. Even when they're laughed at. And eventually, they realize showing up for the wrong people is just enabling parasites. Her mother stood, indignant. You're pathetic. No, I said. I'm finished. I turned to Hannah. You have a decision to make. You can stay here with them. Or you can come clean, take accountability, and maybe we salvage something. But this fake image you've curated, this boss woman with the silent husband bit, that ends tonight. She didn't answer. She just stood there frozen, like someone realizing their safety net had a hole in it the whole time. I walked to the door. Before I left, I looked back one last time. Hannah, when you laughed at me, you thought you were winning. You weren't. You were gambling with a man who doesn't bluff. And now the game's over. The door clicked shut behind me. I didn't get in the car. I just walked, hands in my pockets, breathing in the quiet. The street was dim, a slow suburban evening rolling over a house full of shattered illusions. Behind me, I knew Hannah's mother was trying to reassert control, probably calling me dramatic. Her father wouldn't speak. Her brother might crack a joke. And Hannah, she'd realize, maybe for the first time, that the foundation she stood on was never hers. It was mine, and I just walked out from under it. I didn't hear from her that night. Not a call, not a text, Just silence, which told me everything I needed to know. The next morning, I moved out. Not permanently, not yet, but enough to make the point real. I packed a duffel, left my key on the counter, and forwarded my mail to a box I'd already rented a week earlier when this whole thing started festering. People think decisions like this happen overnight. They don't. They build. Quietly. Like mold under paint. By Monday, my lawyer had filed the separation documents. I didn't want revenge. I wanted distance. Clean lines. Control. That week, she reached out. It started with denial, long paragraphs about betrayal, public embarrassment, how I weaponized finances. Then guilt, screenshots of old photos, messages like, "You used to love me." Then, finally, bargaining. "Can we talk? I'll ask my mom to apologize." I didn't reply. I sent one email. All communication goes through my attorney. She knew what that meant. The mask had slipped, and now she had to look in the mirror without it. Her family reacted about how you'd expect. Her mom posted cryptic passive-aggressive quotes on Facebook. "A man who needs to keep score never really loved you." Her brother called me, once, trying to smooth things over, framing it like a big misunderstanding. I didn't answer. The fallout started slow, but it picked up speed. Turns out, when the provider pulls the plug, the image collapses fast. Her boutique, the one I'd been quietly covering rent for the last 6 months, went dark. She tried applying for a business line of credit, but forgot that I had been the guarantor. Denied. Her car lease got canceled. My name had been first on the application. Her website? Down. Payments lapsed. Hosting gone. The image unraveled. One Instagram post at a time. First the daily quotes disappeared. Then the product promos. Then radio silence. The digital mask cracked where the financial structure used to hold it up. Eventually, her mother called me directly. Left a voicemail. "You may think this is noble or strong, but it's just cruel. You've embarrassed my daughter. You've humiliated this family. No real man would ever do that." I saved the voicemail. Not out of pettiness. Out of precision. Because she still didn't get it. She thought embarrassment was the worst part. It wasn't. The worst part, the actual damage, was having to finally face the truth. That their world had always been artificial, propped up by someone they never bothered to respect. That the man they treated like furniture was the foundation. When you lose something you took for granted, it doesn't leave a hole. It leaves questions. What was real? What else am I blind to? Hannah eventually replied to my lawyer. She wanted to sit down. Closure, she called it. We met at a quiet cafe, neutral ground. She looked tired. Worn. The makeup was heavier than usual. The ring was still on, but loosely. "Why'd you do it like that?" she asked, voice calm, eyes red. I sipped my coffee. "Because that's the only way you'd listen." She looked away. "I didn't know it hurt you that much. You didn't care enough to find out." She didn't deny it. "I believed in us," she said. "I really did." "No," I said. "You believed in me, until I stopped being invisible. Then I was inconvenient." She wiped a tear. "I'm not here to destroy you," I said. "I'm not even angry anymore. I just needed you to feel what I've felt for years. Unappreciated, unseen, treated like an obligation instead of a partner. I didn't know how to say thank you. You didn't need to say it. You just needed to mean it." We sat in silence for a while. Then I stood, placed a signed copy of the finalized separation on the table, and nodded. "I don't hate you, Hannah, but I won't carry you anymore." She reached for my hand. I pulled it back. As I walked out, I felt something strange. Not triumph. Not vengeance. Relief. Weeks passed. The story faded. People moved on, as they always do. Her mom still posts online, but the smiles are tighter now. Her brother moved back in with his parents. And Hannah, I hear she's working part-time at a yoga studio. No more brand deals. No more press tours. Just quiet. As for me, I downsized. New apartment. Clean slate. I still work, consulting quietly. I invest in things that matter now. Relationships built on mutual respect. Not dependency. People ask me if I'd do it all again. The years, the giving, the collapse. Yes, because now I know exactly who I am when everything is stripped away. And more importantly, I know who never deserved what I gave. They said real men provide. They never said real men have to stay when they're taken for granted. I didn't just provide. I built. And when the structure rotted, I walked away, receipts in hand, dignity intact. That's what real men do.